Hi everybody, my name is Charles. Welcome back. We are going to head over to the house in Oxford. We're in haunted house mode. We're trying to get everything ready for Halloween in a couple months. Normally, I have a second channel that I had started that was made with the intent to do all the behind the scenes stuff and give away all the spoilers for the year basically ahead of time. We do have a lot of local people that watch the channel for other reasons in regards to the house, watching me put the roof on and things like that. People that are interested in seeing the house not fall down, basically. And I had made that second channel in an attempt to spare them from any sneak previews. A lot of times, at least for me, I like to be surprised when I see things. I don't always like to go into some sort of event and know what's coming. But I've decided that I suck enough at doing one channel, so I certainly can't do two, and I've really not done a lot with it. But for the meantime, we're just going to go ahead and do that on this channel, and I'll just label them spoilers, because there's probably going to be very few spoiler-free videos, but for the most part, this is going to give people behind-the-scenes looks. So if you're from the local area and you don't want to know ahead of time, then just avert your eyes. So today we're going to head over to the house, and I'm going to give you kind of a tour of the changes that we've made so far this year, and the walkthrough path is going to be different, and talk through the changes that we are going to make versus the last 2 years. Show what we've done so far, what we're doing, go through the kind of the plans, and just kind of a general overview of how I'm hoping that this year will go. All right, so again, we're inside the house now, and I won't bother going through the walkthrough from last year. So if you're curious as to how the walkthrough went, or the pathway it went, you can go watch last year's video. This year I'm going to just kind of highlight the changes and how people are going to go through this way. So let me go in the other room. It's a little bit darker in there, so bear with me. And I know I'm not using my microphone setup, so also bear with me. I will switch over to that here shortly. Alrighty, wow. So we've switched over to the camera and the microphone, so hopefully this quality is better in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if I figured out the stabilization on this, so I'll try to keep my hands relatively calm. Anyway, this room here, we've come down the hallway. This is the first room, so if you watched the last walkthrough, you'll notice the big spider. That's kind of my giveaway. He's been here since day one, and I don't think he works anymore. He used to crawl down the wall, but still really fun thing to have, and it makes it easier for me to say, hey, go into that first room under that spider, and then they'll tell you where to go. Last year you would come into here and you had a choice: go through those that curtained off wall, or through that doorway over there, right? Now that room normally goes into the final room. That's where first year, this was the whole walkthrough, into this room, out that side door and away. Last year, we opened up the whole back half of the bottom of the house, and we curled people around. Now that brings me to one of the changes we're making this year, and that is to not have the pathway circle back around. We'll show you the new path at some point here in a minute, but this year we're doing a path A to B, so we're not going to curl back around. Now, last year we had a great turnout. It was awesome, but people had to wait in line quite a bit because the group would come in, they would make their turn through that, and then they had to loop all the way back around. And I don't know if you can see Barry hanging in his cage in that doorway. They had to loop all the way around and come back out that door and then make this turn into that side room to leave the house. That meant that the next group couldn't go in until they had come through this doorway and made the turn. It's not very far from the front door to this room, and we didn't want people, head-oning into other people. So that's what we did, is we had to wait until that happened. The problem with that is, well, the line got pretty long. At one point, we were all the way down the block, which was amazing to see the turnout. Also doubly amazing that people were willing to wait, but I felt bad. So that's one of the big changes we're making. There's no longer going to be a curled around event. We are actually going to go out the back of the house, and we'll show you that when we get to that point. Now, unfortunately, that also means that this room over here is now, well, hardly anyone is going to see this room, which is a shame, because we added Nosferatu in here, and I mean, granted, it's really the only prop in here. We're going to add some more skeletons as I buy them, because we're going to need more. This room I have to clear out some more stuff and then rearrange some more stuff, and it's basically going to stay the same, though. It's really not going to be crazy. Now, last year it was designed to be kind of like more of a kid-friendly, younger audience, smoother, tamer, quieter experience. This was just a room that had, we had the Harvester of Souls over here who would go off, and we had a little creepy girl that would pop up. She's in another room at the moment, but nothing crazy, nothing really scary, no really loud noises or flashes and stuff like that. It was just basically an exit room. And this year, same thing applies. If you're not going to be able to go through the end of the house, that's fine. There's no harm in that. But this will be the last room you exit. You'll come in that other main room, out this way and down the side, and away you go. Enjoy your evening. While picking up Nosferatu as a brand new prop was kind of neat, and I forgot to bring my hat over for him. I have a hat I wanted to try to put on him, but having him over here is really neat, but there's not going to be a lot of people that see him. Anyway, back into the other room. I'm going to walk you through real quick the pathway we're going to take and show you some of the differences we've got as far as what decor is going to be. Point out some of those, and then we're going to get into the, well, we'll call it the finale. Okay, again, trying to hold my hands steady, so bear with me. We are in this first main room. Now, a couple changes in here real quick for the behind-the-scenes people. We have Barry hanging in his original spot, back over here in this doorway. And again, that's because we're not going to have anybody coming through that doorway this year like we did last year. We've added a new fireplace surround that is much bigger than I thought it was. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to curtain off the fireplace and hide somebody behind it or something. I haven't decided yet. I'd like to have something that like reaches their hand out or something like that. And then over here, if you've seen any of the previous videos, we have the Plague Doctor just chilling. I've got him unplugged at the moment, but he's going to be over here instead of a live actor this year. So again, you'll be able to make the choice, go through the busted out closets and go through the last room, or come this way just like last year. Unlike last year, however, when we come through this doorway, last year, behind Rick Ratman over there, you can see right through him. There's a doorway over there. Last year, you walked into this room, you walked by the table, which actually had somebody on it. You walked by the twins, that's what I'm calling them. I know they're not actually called the twins. One is Dead Debbie and one is Wretched, but that's what I call them because they're just, you know, it makes sense. Anyway, you would walk into this room and you would go through that doorway, and then that doorway led you into a room with the boogeyman and a strobe light, and it was a really cool effect. This year, this room will stay similar, but obviously we've got Rick, we've got Demonica we need to put together. She's just going to chill on the floor, I think. By the way, that's the box for that fireplace around. It's 7 feet long. I was not expecting that. Anywho, this year, they're not going to go out that door. And we're actually going to have that chained off, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Instead, we're going to come out this door. We've opened this back up. Last year, I mean, it's not like it was a new door. This door was here, but I just had some drywall screwed up onto the wall. As you can probably tell, there's a screw right there. That was just up here to create a barrier so nobody thought to walk through here. Barry actually was hanging right here in the middle, so it's not like you had a choice, but again, that's kind of how this worked. This year, though, still going to keep this probably as a witch's den, but instead we're going to take and put like a little chain guide here on the floor, or, you know, up above. So if you've ever been to those fancy mansions, historic, they'll have rooms where you can walk in, but it's cordoned off, and then you can walk in and look at the room, and then you have to leave. That's basically what we're doing. You'll be able to walk in, see the scene. So ideally I'd have more stuff in here. I have not decided what we're going to do just yet. It may stay just the same as it was last year and just add a couple extra set decorations. I don't know. Then we're going to turn around this way, because normally last year we came out this way and then through that doorway. Obviously that's not happening this year. So this year you come in this room and we're going to turn into this room, which last year was a bunch of clowns. Hi, Art. Oh, I hope I unplugged him. So before we move, let's just talk through this real quick. We have props in here like the lullaby. That little girl down there is the one that used to jump out in the last room. We've got this little creepy girl on a horse over here. I've just realized that there's a piece of art I forgot to put on. It's right there on the floor. We'll have to do that. There's my Sawzall. I was wondering what I did with. Okay, so apparently Art was just messing with us. Anyway, that room there is going to be kind of a creepy room. That's going to have, you know, the creepier props. They don't really do a lot. They're just going to be there. I mean, the little girl on the horse tells you that you're all going to die. That's a little creepy. The lullaby just sits there singing, but it's going to be more of a, you know, just kind of a quieter, creepier room. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do for ambient music, and I bought that don't know if you saw it, but there's a grandfather clock against the wall. Bought that last weekend. I'm going to see if I can't find a kind of an out of tune clock soundtrack to put in a speaker inside it, just to make it sound extra creepy. But this room is just going to be a creepy room. We're going to bypass art, and I will see you on the other side. All right, we're back in that room now. You can see behind me, we've got the lullaby down there. There's my clock. I actually purposely have it tilting just because it just adds some creepiness to the room itself. And behind me is the boogeyman. He needs to go somewhere else, but not here. Now this room here is where the boogeyman came out of. He used to stand here in this corner. However, now you can see we have a big door open, but don't get ahead of me. I know I just showed it to you, so I kind of pointed you that direction. But anyway, over here is my new prop. And the way this is set up is that it's designed to have somebody leaning against it, right? You're going to be laying here, leaning against it. It's almost unsettling to lean against it just because you're relying. I mean, granted, it's not going anywhere, but still. The idea being that whoever it is going to be hanging onto this, and then either they will trigger it using this push button that I've wired back up, or somebody else in here will trigger it using like a flip switch. We need to decorate this out. The idea being that, and this is going to get loud, so bear with me. Flashing lights, loud noises, you've been warned. Go. Right? So the idea being that I have to move things, obviously, but this will mimic somebody getting zapped. I'll get some old jumper cables and clip them to this and make it look all, whoa, I lost my light. So I'll get some jumper cables and just, wires and just general, Frankenstein lab looking stuff and put it in here and just make it look like somebody's getting, fried. Again, either they can push the button themselves, or maybe I'll put a foot pad underneath so they can just push the foot pad. Anyway, I mean, this is basically just a trigger. So for anyone curious, this is running through a Peekaboo Junior controller and the AC adapter thingamajigger that they sell. I got both of these from Fright Props. And then we have the flash cracker, again from Fright Props, and then strobe light courtesy at Amazon. So the way that this works is that the trigger sets off the pre-programmed, me-programmed scene in the Peekaboo Junior controller. That sends the trigger down to this AC adapter. That AC adapter cycles on the outlets based on whatever the Peekaboo Junior is sending. But that's this room. This room is going to be of that sort. So now, on to our finale, and which light are we going to take? I guess we'll take this one. My battery box has an LED on it. So let's go in there and I'll talk about what we're going to expect in there. All right, so we're in the finale. Can you tell? I mean, you can totally see some light, right? That's probably the reflection of my glasses right there. Yeah, that's how we're doing this this finale. Let me turn the light on, sort of. There we go. So what we had done is we had come through and we made some walls. These walls are 2x3 studs. We've got a row on the top of the ceiling, a row on the floor, some in the middle, and then we just put some 6mm black plastic sheathing from Lowe's on here. And I used cap nails just to help this from pulling through. If you've ever used regular staples, man, I look messed up. If you use regular staples, the plastic can rip through a little bit easier than if you have a backer. Now, you don't have to go crazy with a cap nailer. Actually, I look like more like Catwoman with these freaking shadows. Anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling. You don't have to use cap nails. I have a cap nailer and had a bunch left over, so I just used that. But you can just take pieces of cardboard and stick them under your staple and then staple your plastic down. The change in pulling strength or holding strength is really remarkable when it comes to that. Anywho, let me turn you around and we'll give you a better view as I hold the light. All right, so as people walk through that entrance, I've just put Mike here for the moment, but we're just going to change up the props. We have a lot of cleanup to do. That's what we're going to do today, is sweep all this out, move a lot of stuff around. So for example, you're going to come into this room here. So we'll have something in this corner probably, and then you turn around the corner, then you come down this hallway. Now we have this framed out to put a door right here in this panel, or at least a curtain. We come through this way, And then we've got this big turn we make. Now this one here, this is actually kind of a tunnel. I have to clear out all the plastic on the floor still, obviously, but this is where the haunter, whoever it will be, probably myself, is going to live, right? They are going to be enclosed into here. There's going to be a curtain over from the top of this hanging down, and then they will basically be able to just chill in here. And again, there's going to be a doorway right here, and then a curtain on the end. And from here, walk around to this one, and then again, more props or people or whatever. And then we make the last turnaround. This section here, where you see all the junk, will be walled off, but that is the last door, which will be open after all the bees are gone, and that will be your exit. So basically, you're just coming around this corner and making a straight shot out the doorway. The other thing we're going to do is I have my big Gemini PA speaker thing. That gets pretty loud. That's going to go into this middle room and just play a bunch of disturbing low frequency noises. Now behind me, this is the exit mudroom. And originally last year I was going to pull this down. And then I decided this year I'd pull it down. And then I decided I don't know what kind of mess I'd be leaving underneath this. Between this, the brush pile's got to get cleared up, and then there's a amount of dirt under the brush pile. So decided to leave this here. So when we were doing the maze, my brother and I were walking through back and forth. We were loading stuff in and out. My neighbor and my brother had helped, and they had unloaded a whole bunch of stuff out of this other room through here and then where it needed to go. Turns out, and you can't see it, but let me turn around and I'll show you something real quick. All that carpeting right there and the padding, that came out from that other room. But I'm going to zoom in. Now, a lot of those are dead, but in there, well, you can see them buzzing around a little bit there. That's a yellow jacket nest, and I know because my brother and I were both stung last weekend putting in the maze in the back room. Well, he got stung as he was cleaning out, and I was doing some other stuff, moving boards in and out, and I got stung as well. And then we realized that there were more of them in here. We've kind of poked around a little bit. We took a long-handled, basically a tree pole saw, and we're pulling things around a bit, and whew, there's a lot of them in there. Now, to be fair, come Halloween time, it'll be much colder by then, and it should be a lot easier to clear that room out. But it's rather annoying right now. I still, a week later, the bite that I had, the sting that I had, still itches. Now, real quick, while we're back here, that door in there, that's going to be the exit for the haunt itself. So we need to put some lights back here, or at least a light back here. Remember, it's going to be dark, so any light will make it seem brighter than just, it's not like I have to put a, 10,000 lumen bulb out here or something. And we need to put a light up here, and then we need to fence off through here so people can walk straight out, hit the driveway, and go back to the front of the house. But again, while those guys are in there, I'm not going to be. So first things first, we have to hang some lights in the maze, and that is so I can work in it without stumbling and tripping over stuff. We have all that stuff we have to move out. Now the stuff in that far corner at the end by the door, that can be covered up with more sheeting, right? That's going to be the end wall. If I can clear out any of that, great. If not, no big deal. But we have that table, and there's a safe in there, and some other stuff leaning up against the wall in the one corner. We've got some chairs around there that we need to get out. All the debris on the floor needs to come out. And it's really easier to do that when you can see what you're doing versus kicking over things with your foot and not knowing. Stuff in the back room, the last room that nobody's going to see, we've got some boxes of stuff in there. That needs to go away. Behind me on the floor in here, I've got some other stuff that needs to go away. So that's just general cleanup we have to do. Then we have to finalize the placement of certain props. Now some of them are where they're going to go. The one room with all the gory stuff, that's basically set up where it's going to be. And we just have to, put Demonica together, put her on the floor. Get the empty boxes out of there, no problem. The witch's den, mostly intact for where it is. Once everything else is cleared out of here, like all the tools and things, again, has to get moved. Well, once that's all cleared out, then we can kind of restage that back to where it's going to go. Now that creepy room, we may have to pull that closeted area down, but I'm not sure yet. And that ties into one more change that we're making this year, and that is we are going to chain off. You might have kind of gotten a hint of that in the witch's den area. We're going to chain off the pathway this year. Last year we didn't. We just had The rooms were basically wide open. So two things. Fortunately, everyone is very respectful. Unfortunately, you always get the one. So last year there was one, I'm not going to out anything, but there was one who kept touching the props after being told repeatedly not to, and it was really starting to frustrate me. I mean, this isn't a professional thing. This is my house. It's literally my house. It's not like I rent the house for Halloween. This is my house. I bought it. These are my props that I have bought with my money. Like, this is like, it's a personal investment, right? I do it to share for everybody else. It's not that I don't, I'm trying to be stingy or anything like that. But I mean, it's kind of a respect thing, right? I mean, that's kind of an unwritten rule. And in a lot of professional haunts, it's a written rule. Don't touch the stuff. So this year we're going to actually just chain off. I've got a box full of some plastic chain and some hooks. We're going to chain off a pathway. So the idea is you stay in the pathway. I have cameras. The cameras will watch. You get out of the pathway, you get out of the house. That's all it works. The pathway will be chained off, so you'll be able to go into the rooms and see the scenes, but you won't be able to interact as much. For example, our actor laying on the table last year would dart her hand out towards people to kind of shock them. Sometimes people would grab her back. Now, it wasn't like malicious or anything. It was just, everyone was just caught up in the excitement. But, we just don't want stuff like that to happen because you don't know where that leads to. So because of that, that creepy room, I don't know. I have to get Art out of there. I have to get the boogeyman out and see what it feels like. If it feels like it's too claustrophobic in the pathway, we'll take that wall down and open the room up and move props around and make it a little bit more open. If it feels like the props are too close to the pathway, and I know they are, just by looking at it, but if it feels like it's uncomfortably close and where people are going to be able to grab and break stuff, we'll take the wall down. It's really not in there by much. It's same thing. It's just a couple of pieces of 2x4s just nailed up and down, and I think I ever screwed them, actually. I probably just unscrewed the whole thing, and some sheetrock that's just thrown up. So coming down won't be that bad, but I don't want to take it down if it opens the room up too much, and then I don't have enough to fill it, if that makes sense. All right, so I just went ahead and got the lighting set up here in this maze, so you can see it a little bit better now, maybe. But we have lights in here, so now you can at least walk around, right? So we come in through that door, and then we just come down through here, and you can see that this is where we come back around. You can tell where I've been painting my fences when it was raining out, and then this is the haunt room, and then down this last corner and around. But at the flip of a button, yep, that's how that works. It is crazy how warm it gets in a room with zero airflow. Now, another thing we have to do in here is we need to set up some triggers and sensors and controllers and stuff that I have yet to purchase. But as part of our A to B haunt, right, front door to back door, we want to be able to have people go in a straight line and not turn around and knocking into other people. And by doing it this way, it should allow us to let groups through faster. So once a group gets to a certain spot, we're going to have a controller with a beam sensor, and that sensor will trip. It'll send a signal all the way up to the front door where I'll have a little green pin light shining towards the person that is letting people in. And from there, we know that somebody has reached X spot in the haunt, send the next group through. Awesome. So we'll have to play with the timing, figure out how long it takes people to walk through. I'll need a volunteer once I have everything set up, and we'll see how long it's going to take to get people from start to finish. And basically we're gonna have to time them from place to place, because we want to make sure that the next group coming in doesn't run into the back of the first group that's already here, but we also want to make sure we're not leaving too big a gap. We don't want it to be, 5 minutes in between. Last year, I really thought it was going to go quicker than it did, and most people did make it through, but even at, call it 3 minutes from the time somebody came into this room and then made it all the way back around, which I think is very generous, you're basically saying, 3 minutes between groups. And with hundreds of people coming through, that adds up quick. And the other thing is, by having these rooms chained off, people aren't going to be wandering around each room. They'll be able to walk in, look at the scene, go, oh, that's cool, neat, whatever, and then move on. So they should be spending less time per room, and as soon as they hit that beam, the next group is coming in, so people keep moving. And that beam sensor is probably going to be somewhere around this next room, either between the witch's den or after they get into the next room, or maybe at the end of the next room before they get into the maze. Who knows? I don't know for sure yet. We'll figure that out later, but that is the plan. Now, in this room here, we're in the witch's room. I want to get 2 more Peekaboo Plus controllers. Now the Peekaboo Plus controllers have multiple outputs, I think 4 for triggers. And obviously you could double the trigger up if you want 2 things to go off at the same time, you can do that. They also have a built-in amplifier so you can run speakers out of it. And the plan being, this room again, probably only a couple props, I don't think we're going to have a third. But these witches were going off constantly last year and constantly talking over each other and just making a jumbled mess. Half the time they were going off before people were even in the room. Like, it was just annoying for me. So by adding a controller, motion sensors, what have you, we can make it so that way we control the scene when people walk in. And it also makes things better in certain rooms, like this one back here, we have a little girl that pops up. Well, I can program that on a controller instead of having to have somebody walking around with a controller button trying to trigger certain props. And that was a big problem we had last year, was that some of the props had to be controlled by a motion or by a trigger. At the time it seemed pretty neat to set up, but then in practice it meant no. So by doing these Peekaboo Plus controllers, I can do a couple things. I can set the scene myself, I can hook speakers to them, which means that the ambient speakers don't have to be on. They can actually just be off. And then when people get to this room, that sound starts playing, and then I can set off the triggers. So for me, ambient sound has been a balancing act. I want to have sound in each room that is specific to each room's theme, but it needs to be quiet enough to not spill into the next rooms over and ruining the ambience for those rooms, but loud enough that people can hear it and make it out. And it's a really delicate balancing act. I think I've done a pretty good job with it, but by doing it this way, it just means each room can play its own sound when people are in it. When they leave, it stops. Done. That way we don't have to worry about all of the ambient noise coming from everywhere. With the exception of this room, because a lot of this stuff is probably just going to be going non-freaking stop. Whatever, I don't care. But so Peekaboo Plus controller in here, Peekaboo Plus controller in here. We're not going to go in there because Art is... Man, he is sensitive. So we're not going to go in that room right now. But yeah, we need to wire up those Peekaboo Plus controllers. So I have to order them. I have a $400 card on Fright Props waiting for me. 2 Peekaboo Plus controllers, one for this room, one for that room. A Peekaboo 1 controller, that's the one that's going to send voltage all the way up to the front through its trigger output thing. And that'll light up a green little, I think it's called a Pano Plus spotlight from Fright Props. But I did get my beam sensor. I ordered one right here. I haven't figured out where it's going to go yet. And the rest of it, though, is just, a lot of this is just going to be cleaned up. So that's basically it. I'm not going to bother you with the rest of this stuff for today because you probably don't want to see that stuff. Oh! Now, before I let you go, I completely forgot about this when we did the walkthrough. The maze is not intended to be a complete blackout maze for the customers. Customers, victims, whatever. It's not actually going to be a blackout maze for them. I alluded to this sort of, and I completely forgot. When the customers... So, when the guests get to that room, they'll go through the whole zappy spiel. But I'm going to have somebody sitting in there at the door. Now, that's why I said that I might have somebody in there to throw a switch. If I can find a good switch and whatnot, we may just rewire the trigger that way. They can laugh maniacally and, shut up, fool! Click! Zap, 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 ha, ha, ha. But their real purpose is going to be to hand people a candle. This candle gets turned on, like so. This little candle is going to be their light through that room. I'll show you what I mean. All right, we're back here looking into the maze. Now again, it's going to be very dark on Halloween night. So originally, my plan was to use a lantern like this. These are little rechargeable lanterns. They were like 10, 12 bucks on Amazon. They're dimmable, but only to a point. And my plan was that everybody would get a lantern, each group rather, would get a lantern and walk in. That lantern is actually too bright. So let's take the lantern and we're going to come in here and we're going to hold it like somebody would be holding a lantern. Right? You can see from here, we can clearly see the back of that wall. We make the corner, you can clearly see that wall. We make the turn, you can clearly see everything in here. So now let's come back to the beginning, turn off our lantern, and switch over to 1 candle power. So as we get close, we can start to see things. And this is where it really makes a difference, because now we lose the light from the other room. I can see where I'm going. It might be hard to pick up on camera. I can actually see that wall from this candle, but it's a lot darker than it was. And it's going to be a lot darker once I hang some creepy cloth over this wall and make it black. You don't see it till you're there. So for example, if we back up and we come around this corner, I come around, I see barely the clown there. And then you have to get close to it to realize what it is. It isn't until you get to it that you see it. So yeah, that's the plan for the finale, is to use these candles. The other reason we're going to use the candles, other than having to buy a butt ton of AAA batteries, because each candle takes 2, and really you can buy a 100-pack of these batteries on Amazon for like 30 bucks. I can buy those candles, they're about 20 bucks for a pack of 6. That's 30 candles times, divide by 6, that's, 5 packages, times 20 bucks, 100 bucks. 100 bucks for candles, 30 bucks for batteries, 130 bucks, we're done. Not only would it cost me 3 times as much, $300 worth of lanterns, but then I have to figure out how to dim them down so they're not showing off as much of the rooms. And I'd have to do that with a lot of manual effort, taping over things or putting covers on them. Just, it would take a lot of work to get that thing to really just dim down enough. Where the candle, just turn a button on and you go away. And those candles will last a long time. And they're also dimmable. So I think by default when I turn this on, it's on its highest setting. But we can actually dim them down with a remote control to even dimmer. So we can really fine tune how dark we want it to be in here. So when people leave and they go out the last room, they go out in the B room, there'll be somebody there with a small box to collect the candle. Each group's only getting 1. You're not getting multiple candles. That defeats the purpose of it being dark back there. And then the last thing we're going to change up, sorry, it's I've been working a little bit more and I took my camera off so I didn't break anything. We're going to reutilize our 2 coffins carrying a skeleton, that's wrong, 2 skeletons carrying a coffin. We're going to reimagine these. We're going to take all these pieces of bones and we're going to get rid of them, throw them somewhere. They are going to move up front because for the last 2 years we've done the candy bucket right up at the doorway, which is, traditionally where you would expect to see candy, is at the door. And people would come up, trick or treat, get their candy, walk in the house. However, one thing that I didn't really count on and I didn't really factor in was that, especially with the long line that we had last year, there's going to be kids that just want to trick or treat, get their candy, and then move on. I hope that's not all stupid yellow jackets. I will lose my mind. So there's going to be kids that just want to get candy and go. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything like that. I'm not saying how dare they not come through my haunted house. I realize that people have different obligations, different things, different places they want to be, different things they want to see. Totally get it. This year, we are going to move the candy bucket from the front door all the way out to the sidewalk, so that way people that are doing trick-or-treating only and not coming to the haunted house don't have to stand in line all freaking night just to get some candy. So these guys are going to have to move, and they're going to move up front somewhere. I'm probably just going to carry them up right now and just put them up in that front room for the time being, just to get them out of the way down here, so I can move Nosferatu over to here, so I can get a better idea of what's got to go in this room and where it's got to go, and I get all the stuff cleaned up. Anyway, that's the candy situation. That's the third big change. You are now caught up with the entire plan of my haunted house. Again, we have a lot of little things to do, a lot of wiring to do. I got to figure out soundtracks. I got to figure out projections for the windows upstairs, change them up a little bit. I always like changing things every year. However, this year I feel like I'm in a better place because it's only the beginning of August. Most of the stuff is more or less in place of where it's got to go, and it's just now all the little details that we have to do, and I feel good about that. Last year, this whole back section had to be completely figured out. So I felt like I took an entire month off, but now I feel like things are, now it's just moving certain things around, tweaking little things, and that'll be fine. But It's still overwhelming when you stop and think about all the little things adding up into big things. So, but that gives you kind of a walkthrough idea for how we're planning on this year and all that fun stuff. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Before anybody jumps, I do want to say we are doing this as safely as we possibly can, even though it might not look it. We have, you know, emergency lighting everywhere. We have the ability to turn on lights when we need to, just in case. There's stuff like that. Fire extinguishers everywhere, smoke alarms, all that good stuff. We have everything done for that. I didn't show any of that. We have cameras everywhere to monitor things. Like, we do have that behind the scenes. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, or the technology side of it, like the electronics. For example, the twins are on a Sprite media player being triggered and all that fun stuff. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, just let me know and I'll do a follow-up on each individual thing, at least as far as how I have mine set up. But thanks for watching. Thanks for walking through with me. And I guess we'll see you next time.